Welcome back, Focus Learners. Today's explainer is an absolute high-stakes deep dive into the undisputed workhorse of the freshwater aquarium hobby, the hang-on back filter. Think of this single piece of equipment as literally the life support system for your underwater pets. Like, without it, the whole ecosystem just collapses. We're packed with concrete facts, actionable data, and some hard truths today to save your fish, save your wallet, and honestly, give you total peace of mind over the next 10 minutes or so. Okay, let's dive right into this. We're starting with a question that catches out even seasoned aquarists. What single, seemingly harmless maintenance mistake crashes a perfectly healthy fish tank in just 48 hours? Now, you might be thinking it's overfeeding, or maybe a massive heater malfunction, right? But it's actually much more deceptive than that. Boom. The answer is rinsing your biological media in tap water. You see, the chlorine in your municipal tap water instantly, and I mean instantly, annihilates the beneficial bacteria colony living inside your filter. And here's why that is absolutely crucial. Your fish are constantly producing toxic ammonia, literally just by breathing and digesting their food. Those microscopic bacteria act as an invisible shield, right? They consume that ammonia before it can cause any harm. Without those microscopic workers, you get a lethal ammonia spike in a matter of days. It leaves your fish gasping at the surface, and your tank is completely ruined. It's actually the top reported cause of preventable tank crashes across the entire hobby. So the golden rule right out of the gate here, always rinse your filter media in old tank water. Never from the tap. No exceptions. Section 1, the number one deadly mistake and why HOB filters rule. So now that we've avoided immediate disaster, we can actually look at the gear itself. If you have a community tank anywhere between, say, 10 and 75 gallons, the hang-on back, or HOB filter, is gonna be your absolute best friend. I mean, they've been a staple in the hobby since the 1970s. And when you look at the brilliant simplicity of this design, it's pretty easy to see why. First off, the external housing means zero wasted space inside your beautiful aquascape. It's got an open top basket, meaning you can easily access and change out media without draining a single drop of water from the tank. But the real secret weapon? That waterfall return. It's not just there to look nice or sound soothing. I want you to really visualize the water pouring down and physically breaking the surface tension of your tank. That physical break is where the actual gas exchange happens. It creates this crucial surface agitation that naturally boosts oxygen exchange, pulling in fresh air from the room. And you know, that is incredibly vital when dissolved oxygen drops in warmer tanks. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why they rule the roost for sub-75-gallon tanks when you compare them to canister filters. For most beginner and community setups, you're looking at spending, $20 to $80 instead of $80 to $300. And setup time? You're looking at under 10 minutes for an HOB. That is a massive relief compared to spending an hour on your hands and knees wrestling with complex canister hoses that inevitably leak all over your living room carpet. Seriously, on pure value, simplicity, and keeping your floor dry, the HOB absolutely crushes it. Well, you know, if you spend enough time deep in aquarium forums, you'll eventually hear critics throw out a very common myth. They'll say, HOB filters just can't handle heavy fish loads. People genuinely think that if you have messy fish, you're strictly forced to buy some giant expensive canister system just to keep the water clean. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. The solution is actually a brilliantly simple advanced tactic, the double filter strategy. Experienced keepers simply run 2 HOB filters side by side right on the back of the same tank. It easily handles heavy bioloads from notoriously messy fish like large cichlids, and it builds in a brilliant failsafe. Think about it for a second. If one motor burns out while you're on a week-long vacation, the other filter keeps your biological cycle perfectly intact. It's the ultimate peace of mind. Plus, even buying 2 HOBs still costs significantly less than one massive canister setup. Moving on to Section 2, the 3-stage water journey. Getting into the hard mechanics of how this all actually works, I want you to imagine tracing a single drop of dirty water as it gets pulled up through that intake tube and journeys through the entire filtration process. That drop hits 3 distinct stages in a very specific order. First up, mechanical. The water hits a sponge or filter floss that physically traps solid debris, like uneaten food and fish waste, before it rots and degrades the water quality. Next is biological. And listen to me closely here, because this is the absolute beating heart of your tank ecosystem. This is where those beneficial bacteria we talked about earlier, the ones colonizing on porous ceramic rings or bioballs, constantly convert toxic ammonia into safer nitrates. Without the stage, the tank dies. Period. Finally, chemical. This final stage usually uses activated carbon to remove dissolved organics, odors, and tannins from the water, basically polishing it before it returns to the tank. Now, there is a massive warning attached to that third chemical stage. You must always remove your activated carbon before treating fish with medication. The reason for this is that activated carbon acts like a hyper-absorbent chemical sponge, and it simply cannot tell the difference between dissolved fish waste and your expensive medicine. It absorbs literally everything. If you leave it in that third stage while medicating a sick fish, your expensive treatments become completely ineffective before they can even work. You're basically just flushing money down the drain at that point. All right, let's look at Section 3, sizing your filter correctly. Sizing is where so many aquarists go terribly wrong. When you walk down the aquarium aisle, you're going to see boxes prominently labeled for 30-gallon tanks. Well, be warned, manufacturer tank size labels are wildly optimistic and highly misleading. They constantly underrate the filters to make them sound way more versatile on the shelf. So the crucial point is this magic number right here, 5 times. You absolutely need a filter rated to turn over at least 5 times your tank's total volume in gallons per hour, or GPH, just to maintain stable water quality and prevent dead spots in the flow. Let's break down the hard math so you can size this perfectly without second-guessing yourself. If you have a low-stocked planted tank, or maybe bettas that prefer very gentle currents, that 4 to 5x multiplier is totally fine. But for a standard 40-gallon community tank with a moderate load, you're looking at 5 to 8x. That means a minimum of a 200 to 320 GPH rating. But what if you have incredibly messy fish like goldfish? You're going to need 8 to 10x turnover. And for heavy eaters and constant diggers like cichlids, who are basically constantly tearing up the substrate and making a massive mess, you want 10 times or more. Oversizing your filter based on these real-world multipliers is simply the best insurance policy you can buy for your livestock. Let's transition into Section 4, Setup and Maintenance Secrets. Buying the right size is step 1, right? But running it correctly is step 2. These are the golden rules for getting your new filter running flawlessly and, more importantly, keeping it alive without accidentally destroying your delicate bacterial ecosystem. Look, you can avoid hours of frustrating airlocks, rattling motors, and weak flow by just taking 5 extra minutes during setup. First, place your intake strainer 1 to 2 inches above the substrate. Otherwise, it's going to suck up gravel and immediately destroy your impeller. Crucially, you absolutely must physically fill the filter housing with tank water to prime the pump before you ever plug it in. If you've ever heard that terrible grinding sound of an unprimed, dry motor, you know exactly why you want to avoid that at all costs. It can literally burn out the motor in minutes. Finally, adjust the spillway height so the return sits just above the water level for incredibly quiet, splash-free operation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this single critical secret when it comes to maintenance. Stagger your media replacements by 2 to 3 weeks. Never, ever replace all your filter media at once. Actually, let me repeat that. Never replace all your media at once. If you toss out the old sponge, the carbon, and those precious ceramic rings all on the same Sunday afternoon just because you want the tank to be extra clean, you wipe out your entire biological filtration overnight. You are basically putting your fish into a brand new, dangerous, uncycled tank, entirely defeating the whole purpose of having a filter in the first place. To wrap up our mechanics, let's rapid fire through the top preventable mistakes that silently stress or kill fish. Number 1, as we opened with, rinsing media in tap water. Number 2, replacing all media at once. Number 3, running an undersized filter based on optimistic box labels instead of hard GPH math. Number 4, ignoring a slow flow rate. If the water flow is weak, the filter is clogged and needs a gentle rinse in tank water to prevent highly toxic hydrogen sulfide buildup inside the housing. And 5, placing the intake too low where it inhales sand and substrate. Honestly, just 10 minutes of correct, careful maintenance a month entirely prevents all of this from happening. Which brings us to our final thought. I want you to look at your tank right now and ask yourself, is your filter silently stressing your fish? Are you turning over enough water? Did you accidentally rinse that biological media under the faucet last week? It might be time to audit your setup. Mastering these absolute basics is what unlocks the true joy of the aquarium hobby. Spending your time watching a thriving, healthy ecosystem rather than constantly finding cloudy water and mysterious fish illnesses. If you want to dial in the perfect filtration, see exactly how to avoid these traps, and check out the top gear picks for 2026, head straight over to the TankZen blog for the full comprehensive guide. Keep learning, keep those water parameters stable, and we'll see you in the next explainer.